Admiral Marcus Blake stood at the wide window of his command ship, watching the empty darkness of space. His gray uniform carried the marks of 15 years commanding the Hegemony fleet along what everyone called the dead zone. But Marcus knew better. It wasn't dead at all. The warning lights blinked red and yellow across his ship's bridge. Every few minutes, a soft beep reminded his crew that they were close to the forbidden boundary. 50 light-years of empty space surrounded the place where humans used to live. No one was allowed to cross that line. No one had crossed it for 300 years. "Sir, incoming message from Patrol Ship 7, called Lieutenant Emma Ward from her station." She was new to this assignment, only 3 months out of the academy. Her voice still carried curiosity instead of the tired acceptance that came with years of border duty. "Put it through," Marcus said, turning away from the window. Captain John Stevens appeared on the main screen. His patrol ship was a tiny dot compared to Marcus's flagship, but it carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. "Admiral, we have a civilian transport trying to approach the boundary. They claim they are researchers studying dead solar systems." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. This happened maybe twice a year. Some academic group or treasure hunters would try to get permission to enter human space. They never understood why the answer was always no. "Send them away, Captain. Standard protocols." "Yes, sir." "They're asking questions though. Want to know why we need such heavy security around empty space." Emma Ward looked up from her console. "Sir, if I may ask, why do we need such heavy security? I mean, if the humans are all gone, what exactly are we guarding against?" The bridge went quiet. Marcus had heard this question before, usually from new officers. He had asked it himself when he was young. His commanding officer back then had shown him the classified files. Now it was his turn. "Computer, display classification file Omega 7. Authorization Blake Alpha 77. The main screen flickered and changed. Suddenly they were looking at old video footage, grainy and damaged by age. It showed massive ships moving through space, their hulls black and scarred but still intact. The ships moved in perfect formation, like a pack of hunting animals. "These are human warships," Marcus said quietly. "This footage is from the final battles, almost 400 years ago." The video continued. They watched human ships tear through alien fleets twice their size. They saw weapons that seemed to learn and adapt in the middle of battle. Most disturbing of all, they saw human ships using captured alien technology against its own creators, sometimes within hours of capturing it. "I thought the humans were defeated," Emma whispered. "The humans weren't defeated, Lieutenant. They were contained." Marcus paused the video on an image of Earth's solar system, surrounded by the wreckage of both human and alien ships. "The Galactic Council tells everyone that humanity was wiped out. That's a lie. They were driven back to their home system and locked in." "But sir, that was 4 centuries ago. Even if some survived, surely they're all gone by now." Marcus brought up another file. This one showed energy readings from the border region, collected just last month. Strange signals sometimes leaked out of the forbidden zone. Signals that suggested someone was still home. "Lieutenant Ward, do you know why we call them the Terrans?" "Because they came from Terra, their word for Earth, sir." "Do you know what Terra means in their old language?" Emma shook her head. "It means dirt. Ground. They named their whole species after dirt, Lieutenant. Think about that. What kind of people are so connected to their home soil that they name themselves after it?" The bridge crew was listening now, all of them focused on their commander's words. The humans didn't expand across the galaxy because they were explorers or conquerors. They did it because they could adapt to anything. Desert worlds, ice worlds, toxic atmospheres, high radiation, low gravity, high gravity. If there was a way to survive somewhere, humans found it. If there wasn't a way, they made one. Marcus walked back to the window, looking out at the warning beacons that marked the boundary. The old records say that in just 200 years, humans went from barely reaching their own moon to terraforming dead planets and building artificial intelligences that scared civilizations millions of years older than them. They didn't just use technology, they improved it. Everything they touched became better, faster, more efficient. "So why were they contained?" Emma asked. "Because they were too good at it. The old powers in the galaxy got scared. Scared that in another century or two, humans would surpass everyone else. So they framed them for attacks they didn't commit and declared war." The video screen showed more footage now, human colonies burning as alien fleets attacked without warning. Then it showed those same fleets retreating in chaos as human defenders struck back with weapons and tactics no one had ever seen before. The war lasted 20 years. When it ended, 12 major civilizations had been reduced to barely functioning governments. Whole sectors of space were left uninhabitable. The humans had lost most of their colonies, but the galaxy had lost much more. Marcus turned back to face his crew. So they built this containment zone and told everyone the humans were extinct. But the energy readings we detect, the strange signals, the way our equipment sometimes malfunctions near the boundary? Those aren't signs of dead space, Lieutenant. Those are signs that someone is still home. Someone who has had 400 years to think about what happened to them. The bridge was completely silent now. We're not guarding against dead humans, Lieutenant Ward. We're hoping the living ones stay content behind their fence. Outside the window, the warning beacons continued their eternal dance, marking the edge of humanity's prison. Or perhaps, Marcus thought grimly, marking the edge of everyone else's safety. Captain James Morrison watched through the observation deck as another massive ship took shape in the orbital yards above New London. The construction robots moved like a swarm of metal insects, welding and building with perfect precision. In just 6 months, the shipyard would complete its 15th heavy cruiser this year. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" said Commander Helen Ross, joining him at the viewing window. She held a datapad filled with reports from across human space. The engineering teams say this new design can travel twice as far without refueling. James nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. Down on the planet's surface, New London stretched across 3 continents. What had been a dead rock 20 years ago now supported 12 million colonists. The terraforming machines had worked faster than anyone predicted, turning poison air into something humans could breathe. "How many worlds are we on now?" James asked. 4 to 7 confirmed colonies. Another dozen in the terraforming stage. "The expansion rate is incredible, sir. We're settling new systems faster than we can map them properly." James had lived through humanity's greatest age of growth. When he was born, humans had barely reached beyond their own solar system. Now, at 52, he commanded ships that could jump between stars like stepping stones across a river. "Message coming in from the Galactic Council," Helen reported, checking her pad. "Another technology request. They want our new medical scanners and the soil processors we used on Kepler-4. The aliens had been eager to trade when humans first joined the galactic community. Earth's innovations solved problems that had puzzled other species for centuries. Human doctors could cure diseases that had killed aliens for thousands of years. Human engineers could make dead planets bloom with life in decades instead of centuries. "Set up the usual exchange," James said. "Medical tech for raw materials and star charts." But lately, something felt different in the alien communications. The enthusiasm had cooled. Ambassador David Clark's reports from the council meetings mentioned more closed sessions, more private conversations that humans weren't invited to join. 3 systems away, David Clark sat in the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council on Nexus Prime. The building was ancient, carved from a single massive crystal that had been growing for millions of years. Representatives from 64 different species gathered here to make decisions that affected trillions of beings. "The human proposal for joint terraforming projects shows great promise," David said, addressing the assembly. His translator device converted his words into the various languages needed for the different species present. "Our techniques have already ended food shortages on 12 worlds." But the response was cooler than he expected. The Vorthan representative, a being that looked like a walking tree with silver bark, spoke in careful tones. "The humans advance very quickly. Perhaps too quickly for some to follow." David felt a chill that had nothing to do with the chamber's temperature. "Our growth benefits everyone. We share our discoveries freely." "Yes," said the crystalline delegate, her voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "But in 50 years, humans have achieved what takes most species 500 years. This is concerning to some." After the session, David found himself in a private meeting with 3 of the older species representatives. The Vorthans had been spacefaring for over 10,000 years. The Crystallines claimed their civilization was 50,000 years old. The hegemony, the galaxy's dominant military force, traced their history back over 100,000 years. "Your people are remarkable, Ambassador Clark," said General Keth Morrison of the hegemony. His species looked almost human, but with gray skin and eyes that seemed too large. "But remarkable can be dangerous." "I don't understand." "Your artificial intelligence systems are more advanced than anything we've seen. Your weapons adapt and improve themselves. Your ships repair battle damage automatically. Your terraforming doesn't just make planets livable, it makes them better than they were before." The Vorthan representative, Elder Savan, leaned forward with a creaking sound like old wood. In our long history, we have seen species rise quickly. Most burn out, destroy themselves with their own power. But humans seem different. We're careful with our technology, David protested. Are you? Your colonies spread faster than we can track them. Your population grows at rates that concern our statisticians. Your military, while small, uses tactics our war colleges cannot predict or counter. David felt the weight of their stares. These were beings whose civilizations had ruled the galaxy when humans were still living in caves on Earth. Now they were worried about humanity's growth. What are you suggesting? Perhaps humans should slow their expansion. Take time to mature as a species before taking on more responsibilities. David knew a threat when he heard one, even when it was wrapped in diplomatic language. And if we choose not to slow down? The silence that followed was answer enough. Back on New London, Captain Morrison received David's coded message. The situation at the council was deteriorating. Some of the older species were forming private alliances, having secret meetings that excluded human representatives. They're scared of us, Morrison said to Helen as they walked through the colony's main city. Around them, humans worked alongside friendly alien visitors. Children played games that mixed Earth traditions with customs learned from a dozen different worlds. After 10,000 years of controlling the galaxy, they're scared of what we might become. Helen looked up at the orbital shipyards, where another vessel was taking shape. Maybe they have reason to be. Morrison followed her gaze. The ships being built weren't just faster and stronger than the old designs. They were smarter, more adaptable. Each new vessel incorporated lessons learned from the last. Human engineering didn't just improve gradually, it leaped forward in ways that surprised even their own designers. We're not trying to threaten anyone, Morrison said. No, but we're changing everything just by being ourselves. And change scares people, especially people who have been in charge for a very long time. Above them, the construction continued. Humanity's golden age was reaching its peak, though neither of them knew they were watching the last peaceful days their species would see for centuries to come. Admiral Patricia Hayes was reviewing training reports when the emergency signal reached her flagship. The red alert klaxons began blaring across the ship as her communications officer, Lieutenant Mark Stevens, turned from his console with a pale face. Admiral, we're receiving an immediate recall order from Earth Command. All human vessels are to return to core systems at maximum speed. Patricia had been conducting routine training exercises with her fleet near the Tau Ceti colonies. Her ships were spread across 3 systems, working with local defense forces on standard patrol operations. The recall order made no sense. What's the reason for the recall? She asked. Mark's hands shook slightly as he read the incoming data. The Galactic Council has declared humanity a hostile force. They're saying we attacked neutral worlds. That's impossible. Plot our positions for the last month. The tactical display lit up, showing the locations of every human ship under Patricia's command. None of them had been anywhere near the systems mentioned in the accusations. But as more reports flooded in, the evidence against humanity grew stronger. Captain Robert Kane commanded the small defense force at Kepler Station, humanity's furthest outpost. His 3 ships were old but reliable, designed more for patrol work than serious combat. When the scanner alarms began screaming, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Sir, we have incoming ships. Lots of them, reported his sensor operator, Ensign Lisa Parker. Her voice climbed higher with each word. I'm reading hegemony battle cruisers, Vorthan destroyers, crystalline carriers. Sir, there are 12 different species out there, and they're all heading straight for us. Robert stared at the display. The combined fleet approaching his position was larger than anything he'd ever seen. Hundreds of ships from across the galaxy, all flying in perfect formation toward his tiny outpost. Open communications, he ordered. The alien fleet commander appeared on screen. General Keth Morrison of the Hegemony looked grim and determined. Captain Kane, by order of the Galactic Council, you are commanded to surrender immediately. Your species has committed acts of war against neutral worlds. General, that's not possible. My ships haven't left this system in 3 months. None of our forces have been near the attacked worlds. The evidence is clear, Captain. Surrender now or be destroyed. Robert looked at his small crew. They were good people, most of them colonists who had volunteered for defense duty. They had families on the stations and planets nearby. But the alien fleet wasn't giving them a choice. We won't surrender to false charges, Robert said. What happened next shocked both sides. Robert's 3 small ships, outnumbered 200 to 1, began moving in patterns the alien fleet couldn't predict. Instead of fighting like a traditional naval force, they scattered and regrouped like a pack of wolves hunting much larger prey. Captain Susan Turner commanded one of Robert's destroyers. When the battle began, her ship took heavy damage from alien plasma weapons. But instead of retreating, she did something no one expected. Her engineering teams began studying the alien weapon signatures even as the battle raged around them. "I've got it," called her chief engineer, Commander Paul Bennett. "Their plasma cannons use a rotating frequency modulation. If we reverse the polarity and match their frequency." Within 2 hours, Susan's ship was firing alien-style plasma bursts back at the enemy fleet. But these weren't just copies. Her weapons had been improved, made more efficient and accurate than the originals. The alien commanders couldn't understand what they were seeing. Human ships were adapting to their weapons in real time, learning and improving faster than seemed possible. Major Thomas Mitchell led the marine defense of Kepler Station's main habitat. When alien boarding parties tried to take the station, they found themselves facing human soldiers who were using captured alien armor and weapons. But again, the humans weren't just copying. They were improving everything they touched. "Their energy rifles are good, but the power cells are inefficient," Thomas reported to his squad leaders. Johnson figured out how to boost the output by 30%. Williams found a way to make their armor lighter without losing protection. The battle for Kepler Station lasted 6 days. When it ended, the alien fleet had lost over 40 ships to Robert's original 3 defenders. But the cost for humanity was terrible too. The station was destroyed, and most of the colonists were evacuated in damaged lifeboats. Similar battles erupted across human space. At every colony, every outpost, every trade station, human forces found themselves facing overwhelming odds. The galaxy had united against them based on evidence that showed human ships attacking neutral worlds with weapons that matched Terran military signatures perfectly. Admiral Patricia Hayes knew the evidence was false, but she couldn't prove it. Her intelligence officers found traces of advanced holographic manipulation in the attack recordings. Someone had staged the attacks to look like human operations, but the technology needed was beyond anything the galaxy possessed. "They used our own technology against us," she told her staff officers during an emergency meeting. "Someone captured our ships, studied our weapons, and created perfect copies to frame us." "How is that possible, Admiral?" asked Commander David Park. "It shouldn't be. But we've been sharing our technology freely with the Council for decades. If someone wanted to frame us, they'd have everything they needed to make it convincing." The war that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human forces, fighting for their very survival, displayed capabilities that terrified their enemies. Ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting. Weapons that should have run out of ammunition found new ways to keep firing. Soldiers who should have been overwhelmed turned captured enemy equipment into superior versions of itself. Captain Robert Kane, now commanding a fleet of captured and modified alien vessels, sent a final message to the Galactic Council before the humans began their fighting withdrawal to Earth. "You wanted to see what humans could do when cornered. Now you know. We didn't start this war, but we'll finish it on our terms." The trap had been sprung perfectly. But the hunters were about to discover that cornering humanity was very different from defeating them. Fleet Commander Elizabeth Wright stood on the bridge of the last human carrier, watching her battered fleet limping toward Earth. 20 years of war had reduced humanity's mighty colonial empire to a handful of overcrowded ships carrying the survivors of 4 to 7 worlds. "Final count, Commander," she asked her aide, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mills. 230 ships remaining from our original fleet of 8,000. We're carrying nearly 3 million refugees, but we've lost contact with 12 outer colonies. They're probably gone." Elizabeth nodded grimly. The numbers told the story of humanity's retreat. System after system had fallen to the alien coalition. Not because humans couldn't fight, but because they were simply outnumbered. For every human ship, the enemy had brought 10. For every human soldier, they faced 20 aliens. But the cost to the galaxy had been terrible beyond imagination. Admiral Trevor Collins of the Hegemony Fleet sat in his command chair, staring at reports that made no sense. His fleet had started the war with over 1 million vessels. Now, barely 10,000 remained operational. The other members of the coalition had suffered similar losses. "How many civilizations have requested emergency aid?" he asked his intelligence officer. 43, sir. The Vorthans have been reduced to pre-industrial technology on most of their worlds. The Crystalline Empire has lost 60% of their population. The Kelthari are asking for basic medical supplies because their entire pharmaceutical industry was destroyed. Trevor closed his eyes. The war was supposed to be a quick police action to humble humanity and show the galaxy that the old powers were still in control. Instead, it had become a nightmare that consumed everything. The humans had fought like no species the galaxy had ever encountered. When their ships were damaged, they didn't retreat for repairs. They cannibalized parts from destroyed alien vessels and kept fighting. When they ran out of ammunition, they found ways to turn asteroids into weapons. When their colonies were attacked, the civilians didn't just evacuate. They sabotaged everything they left behind. Captain Jennifer Walsh had commanded the defense of the Proxima colony when the alien fleet arrived. Her orders were simple: delay the enemy long enough for civilian evacuation. But Jennifer had done something else entirely. "We can't save the colony," she told her engineering teams, "but we can make sure they don't benefit from taking it." Her people had worked for 3 days straight, modifying the colony's power systems and manufacturing plants. When the aliens finally took the settlement, they found what looked like a fully operational human base. The factories were running, the power grid was stable, everything seemed ready to be used. The aliens had brought their own engineers to study human technology and turn the colony's resources against Earth. But when they tried to use the equipment, disaster struck. The modified systems released clouds of nanomachines that were designed to target specific alien DNA patterns. The Kelthari engineers who entered the main factory developed a plague that destroyed their immune systems. The Vorthan technicians who tried to access the computer systems found that the data cores released targeted toxins that attacked their plant-like biology. The hegemony soldiers who occupied the residential areas discovered too late that the air recycling systems had been programmed to produce gases that were harmless to humans but deadly to their species. Similar scenes played out across dozens of human colonies. Every world that fell to the alien coalition became a trap that cost them thousands of lives and years of recovery time. But the most terrifying thing wasn't the traps or the modified technology. It was how quickly humans learned to use captured alien equipment better than its original creators. Major Robert Chen had started the war commanding a standard human infantry unit. By the war's end, his soldiers were using weapons and armor from 8 different alien species. But they weren't just using them. They were improving them. "The crystalline energy shields are decent," Robert explained to his replacement, "but if you reverse the field polarity and add a feedback loop, they become twice as effective. The Vorthan healing pods work great, but we figured out how to make them work on human biology. They actually heal us faster than they heal Vorthans." The alien coalition had expected to capture human technology and use it against Earth. Instead, they found themselves losing their own technological advantages as humans turned captured alien science into superior versions of itself. General Catherine Morgan, the last surviving member of Earth's High Command, stood in the ruins of Geneva as the alien coalition's final ultimatum arrived. The enemy fleets had gathered at the edge of the solar system, but they weren't advancing. They were waiting. "They are offering us terms," she told the Emergency Council. "Complete withdrawal to the Sol system. No expansion beyond the asteroid belt. A 50 light-year quarantine zone around our system. In exchange, they'll stop the bombardment and let us keep Earth." "What choice do we have?" asked Admiral Jonathan Pierce. "We can't fight the whole galaxy." Catherine looked at the tactical displays showing Earth's defenses. 20 years of war had turned the solar system into a fortress unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Every planet was armed, every moon was a weapons platform, every asteroid had been turned into a surveillance post or missile battery. "They're not offering us these terms because they're generous," she said quietly. "They're offering them because they're afraid to find out what we've built here." The alien coalition had achieved their goal. Humanity was contained within their home system, cut off from the galaxy. But the price had been the collapse of galactic civilization itself. Dozens of species had been reduced to barely functioning governments. Whole sectors of space were uninhabitable due to human weapons that continued to operate decades after being deployed. Admiral Collins signed the containment treaty with hands that shook from exhaustion and horror. The war was over, but the galaxy that had started it no longer existed. In trying to humble humanity, they had destroyed themselves. The official records would claim that humanity had been exterminated. The truth was too dangerous to reveal. Behind their quarantine, humans began to build something new. The silence broke at exactly 0800 hours, Galactic Standard Time. Admiral Marcus Blake had been commanding the perimeter patrol for 15 years, watching over the dead zone that surrounded human space. His instruments had always shown nothing but empty darkness beyond the quarantine boundary. Then suddenly, every scanner on his flagship began screaming warnings. "Sir, We're receiving a transmission from inside the Forbidden Zone, called Lieutenant Emma Ward, her voice shaking with disbelief. Marcus felt his blood turn cold. In 400 years, nothing had ever come out of human space. Nothing had ever gone in. The quarantine had been perfect, absolute. Put it through, he ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing a woman in a crisp military uniform that looked somehow familiar yet completely foreign. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple style, and her brown eyes held a calm confidence that made Marcus nervous. This is Admiral Rachel Stone of the Terran Defense Force. I'm speaking to whoever commands the perimeter fleet. We need to talk. Marcus found his voice after a moment of stunned silence. This is Admiral Blake of the Hegemony Fleet. You're transmitting from a forbidden zone. No one is supposed to be alive in there. Rachel smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. A lot of things are supposed to be true, Admiral Blake. We've had 400 years to think about what's supposed to be and what actually is. I'm sending coordinates for a meeting. Come alone, or come with your entire fleet. It doesn't matter to us. The transmission ended, leaving Marcus staring at an empty screen. Around him, his bridge crew sat in shocked silence. The impossible had just happened. Humanity was still alive. 3 days later, Marcus found himself leading a small reconnaissance fleet across the quarantine boundary for the first time in centuries. What his senses showed him made no sense. The Sol system blazed with energy signatures that his computers couldn't identify. Massive structures surrounded every planet, some of them larger than entire moons. Sir, I'm reading artificial gravity fields that shouldn't be possible, reported his science officer. There are ships moving between worlds without using jump drives. They're just traveling faster than light somehow. Marcus had studied the old records. When humanity was contained, they had been a young species with promising technology but limited resources. What he was seeing now suggested something far beyond anything in the galaxy's databases. The human flagship that met his small fleet was beautiful and terrifying. It moved through space like a living thing, its hull seeming to shift and adapt as they watched. When Marcus and his diplomatic team boarded the vessel, they found themselves in corridors that adjusted their lighting and gravity to make the visitors comfortable. Admiral Rachel Stone met them in a conference room that offered a perfect view of Earth through transparent walls that seemed to be made of crystallized space itself. The planet below was almost unrecognizable. Orbital rings surrounded the world like jeweled chains, and structures rose from the surface that reached toward the stars. Welcome to humanity's home, Admiral Blake, Rachel said, gesturing for him to sit. I apologize for the dramatic invitation, but we thought it was time the galaxy knew we survived your attempt to wipe us out. The official records say humans were exterminated 400 years ago, Marcus replied carefully. The official records are a lie, and you know it. Your people locked us in here and told everyone we were dead. We decided to let you keep believing that while we improved ourselves. Rachel activated a holographic display that showed the Sol system as it had been 4 centuries ago, then transitioned to show it as it was now. The transformation was impossible to comprehend. Every world had been changed, enhanced, turned into something that served humanity's needs. Our population is now 1 trillion souls, spread across habitable worlds, space stations, and artificial habitats you can't detect with your senses. We don't need other star systems anymore, Admiral. We learned how to make better use of what we have. Marcus struggled to process the numbers. 1 trillion humans, all contained within a single star system, using technology that made the rest of the galaxy look primitive. What do you want from us? He asked. Rachel's expression became serious. We want to offer the galaxy a choice. You can acknowledge humanity as an equal partner in galactic civilization. We'll share our advances, help rebuild what was lost in your war against us, and work toward a better future for all species. She paused, and something dangerous flickered in her eyes. Or you can maintain your quarantine. But understand, Admiral, it will no longer be you keeping us locked in. It will be us choosing to keep you locked out. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Are you threatening us? I'm offering you facts. 400 years ago, you were afraid of what humanity might become if we continued to grow and expand. You declared war on us based on lies, destroyed our colonies, and drove us back to our home system. All because you were scared of our potential. Rachel stood and walked to the window, looking down at Earth. Well, Admiral, now you get to see what that potential actually looks like when it's had 4 centuries to develop in isolation. Every weapon you used against us, we studied and improved. Every challenge you presented, we overcame and learned from. Every attempt to limit us only made us stronger. She turned back to face him. The humanity you were afraid of 400 years ago was nothing compared to what we've become. The cage you built to contain us became our cocoon. And now we're ready to emerge. Marcus left the meeting knowing that everything had changed. The galaxy that had tried to suppress humanity's rise had only succeeded in creating something far more powerful than their worst nightmares. The quarantine zone that had once been humanity's prison would now become everyone else's boundary. The Terran colonial empire was gone. In its place stood something magnificent and terrifying that the galaxy was completely unprepared to face. The children had finally come home.